everyone, it's Nina. Thanks for joining me today for another video. It's always my favorite time of year when we feature the latest Pantone color of the year. I have been doing this on the Simon channel for many years now, and this year is Peach Fuzz. This is a really great and fresh color. I'm excited to be inspired by this today and make this beautiful love card using many products from our Simon Says Stamp collection, including our Simon Says Stamp Peachy ink. In addition to the Peachy ink, I'm going to be using some Moondust Stickles and our Heart Chain Stencil. We're going to start off with these products first because we're going to do a bit of ink blending. I'm going to ink blend on top of my Stampin' Stencil mat. I'm going to line my A2 size paper into the teal rectangle that is printed onto the mat. And then inside of that black square, I'm going to line up my 6x6 stencil. This mat is extremely helpful for holding your stencils in place while you work. And by using those guides, you're going to have everything centered beautifully. The Peachy ink is going to get used along the bottom and the top of this stencil design, and we're going to fade it out to the middle. I wanted the middle section to be extremely light and fade out to white, so that way it gives a little bit of a glow behind the sentiment and hearts that we're going to be placing on top of this background. So once my ink blending was done, but before I remove the stencil, we're going to apply a bit of paste. Moondust Stickles is a clear glitter paste, and it looks fantastic when you put it over top of ink. So I'm going to apply this paste through the Heart Chain Stencil over top of all of my ink blending and have a nice smooth layer of this paste applied. Once I have all of my paste applied, then I'll carefully lift the stencil off of the paper, and you're going to see how this glittery, sparkly paste looks so beautiful on top of this peach ink. To remove the paper from my mat, I'm just going to carefully bend the mat in half, and that's going to start to release the paper off of it, and then I'll just gently pick up the paper off of the mat and let this dry for a while. So on top of this background, we're going to be placing a sentiment. I have our Simon Says Stamp Fancy Love You die that I've cut from both our Simon Says Stamp matte silver cardstock and also some white. We're going to stack the white pieces behind the silver paper so that way it gives this sentiment a little bit more of a substantial feel, and it also will give it some dimension off of our background. I'm going to glue all these pieces together with our Simon Says Stamp Craft Tacky Glue. This glue is nice and strong, but it also dries clear, so if you have any glue that might squish out the sides, you're never going to notice it. This sentiment is super delicate, so I do find having some tweezers on hand to help me pick up some of these pieces is extremely helpful. So after die cutting my sentiment, I've also die cut our Simon Says Stamp Chunky Heart Trio die from some white cardstock. This is going to get layered onto the center of my background. I am going to turn this background into an edge-to-edge shaker, so I've cut a piece of plastic that's a little bit larger than my card panel, and this is going to form the pocket for my shaker. I have to apply some tape around the edges of this paper, so I'm using our Simon Says Stamp Terrific tape to do that. You want to make sure it's right up against the edge. And then you'll remove the release paper from 3 sides of the cardstock, leaving that 4th edge untouched for now because we need to have an opening in which to pour our sequins. So I'm going to lay that plastic into the exposed adhesive, folding these edges around my paper. And if I have any excess hanging off the corners, I can just take my scissors and trim that down just so that way it gives it a nice flush cut. So I now have this cute pocket that needs to be filled with sequins. So I picked out these beautiful peach colored sequins from Trinity stamps. I'll fill this pocket with those sequins. And then once I'm happy with how much I have inside, I can remove that final release paper off of that last edge of adhesive. And then here is my pocket fully assembled. And we have this beautiful edge-to-edge shaker now with those sparkly hearts and those fun sequins on top. So that little heart trio that I die cut from some white cardstock is going to get glued on top of our edge-to-edge shaker. I used Simon Says Stamp Craft Tacky Glue for this as well, and I'll center this into the middle of my card. This card panel is slightly smaller than an A2 card, so I did trim it down just a bit before I turned it into a shaker. The greeting is also going to get glued onto the shaker card with some Craft Tacky Glue. I started with the largest piece first, and then I'll go ahead and fill in the rest of the sentiment with the other small piece. And again, those tweezers are so helpful for making sure that you have a good grip on your delicate die cuts without having to worry about bending them. So now I'm going to go ahead and place this onto an A2 card panel, and I love how this frames up the entire thing. We're just about done, but I did want to add a little bit more sparkle. So I brought in some new sparkly heart gem stickers from Rainbow Splash, and I'm using this peachy colored one that matches so nice with the colors we've used here. And I'm just going to place 3 of these around my sentiment and hearts just to fill everything in, and it adds a really nice bit of dimension to the card as well. This card is not super bulky, so it would be very easy to mail. And with all this sparkle and shine, it is a beautiful showcase of the Pantone color of the year for 2024, which is Peach Fuzz. So if you're curious about any of the products that I used today to create this card, you can find them all down in the video description or over on our blog. So be sure to check all of that out. The fun part about this card is that this is a card that you could send to somebody year-round. This could be a great Valentine, but it's also a good design for year-round staples. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to come back soon for additional inspiration.
Hi there, I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at simonsaysstamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.